And today's movie is about a 15-year-old named Oliver who thinks that he's a prominent thinker who struggles with unspeakable loss. But in actuality, he's a pretentious and socially awkward kid. He lives in a big house on a hill with his parents, and his current goal in life happens to be getting this girl Jordana to be his girlfriend and fixing his parents' relationship. We next see Oliver in class, lost in his thoughts, when the teacher was lecturing about what self-discovery is. Then a student sitting behind Oliver is asked to express his perspectives about this topic. And as you would expect from a 15-year-old, the young man gives an obscene answer and he gets himself kicked out. We are then brought into Oliver's thoughts. He mentions that for him, the only way to get through life is to picture himself in an entirely disconnected reality. He imagines how shocked and devastated the students would be in detail. He thinks of how the media would focus on the news of his death, and there would be reports of how popular and admired he was. The girls from school would weep because they think they have lost a funny, smart, and lovable peer, and quiet devotions take place all over the country to express the love and loss felt for him, but this is only until his magical resurrection. He appears glowing in a black hood and tells all the girls from his class, who seem to be collectively laying on the ground holding the flowers that have been meant for him, that he is now mysteriously more powerful, and in his mind, this makes Jordana, his crush, more attracted to him than anyone. He was smiling when a note was slid inside his desk by Chips, who pulls them back into reality. The folded paper had a text that said, "Open it," and Oliver unfolds the paper to read a vulgar statement that was written as a joke. He tries to pass the note to Zoe, who was an overweight student that is usually bullied. Zoe refuses to take the note, but he doesn't stop asking. The teacher notices this and asks Oliver to read what's on the note, and when he was awkwardly raising from his seat to do so, the bell rings and saves him from the humiliation. After being dismissed from class, Oliver follows Jordana around school. He observes and makes speculations about her. She's got eczema, which he believes to be her only flaw, and based on his observations, Jordana doesn't talk much about herself. She also isn't popular, which he thinks increases the probability of her being interested in him. He finally notes in his last point that she is single because her ex-boyfriend cheated on her. In the attempt to impress Jordana, Oliver decides to bully Zoe. He collaborates with Chips and Jordana in a silly chase after taking her bag away from her, and Zoe, while trying to retrieve her bag from Oliver, falls into a pond. Feeling shameful and guilty, Oliver heads home to find the new neighbor's car with dramatic graffiti on it. He spies on his neighbors Graham and his girlfriend, and he identifies them as ninjas when he sees them doing this strange dance in black gowns. Jordana and the neighbors aren't the only people Oliver spies on. He also investigates the intimacy of his parents. He does this by checking dimness of the light in their room, and if it's bright, then they haven't been intimate, but if the dimmer switch is only halfway on, meaning the room is dim, then he concludes that they've been intimate. Based on his data, Oliver knows that his parents have been distant from each other for about 7 months. The next morning, Oliver notices the absence of Zoe from class. Driven by the increasing guilt, he decides to write her a pamphlet titled "How to Break the Victim Cycle," on which he basically tells her to try to fit in. He attaches a discount coupon of some burger place to it and delivers it to her, and Jordana sees him do this, but he tries to play it off. Later, in the school lab, Jordana indirectly tells Oliver that she has the pamphlet. Using this as leverage, she threatens Oliver into taking pictures of them kissing. While the reason for this was making her ex-boyfriend jealous, the plan backfires and the two get publicly bullied. Oliver gets beat up for refusing to insult Jordana in front of the entire school, and his courage and respect for her makes her attracted to him. As a result, when they were on their way home, Jordana takes his hand and she kisses him. When they get home, his neurotic mother, who thinks that he has a mental illness, follows him to his room and insists on knowing how he got a black eye. He tells her that he was defending the honor of his girlfriend, and after doubting everything at first, she finally becomes convinced and tells his father. This information seems to take his father out of the dull and depressing state that he was always in, and he brings Oliver a cassette recording with music that's related to love and breakups, just in case. It's been 2 weeks since the two got into a relationship now, and Chips and his friends think that 2 weeks was too long because they believe that Oliver and Jordana should be doing it by now. They criticize Oliver for not doing anything intimate with her, and later that evening, he takes Jordana to a quiet place and tries to indirectly ask her to sleep with him, and he anxiously mentions that his parents won't be home on Thursday because they're going out for movie night. And after he shows her the list of reasons why they should do it, which was written on his hand, she surprisingly agrees. Fast forward to Thursday night, Oliver dresses up in a suit and he gets out of his room and goes downstairs to find his parents home. His dad, Lloyd, seems to be unpleased to find out that the neighbors also identified with the name Ninjas would also join them. So Graham and his girlfriend arrive, and after Graham compliments Oliver's mom, Jill, in a very flirtatious way, they all get into Graham's colorful van and leave. Oliver then quickly sets a romantic scene in his parents' room and waits for Jordana. An interesting fact about Jordana is that she hates romance. So at dinner with red candles and an awkward speech, being taken into a room with heart-shaped balloons and more candles and seeing Oliver on the bed in what he believes to be an attractive pose was all just repelling her to a very large extent. And so, unfortunately for Oliver, she refuses to do anything and she decides to leave. Just before she steps out of the door though, Oliver gives her a letter that he made ready for her. She starts to read it as soon as she gets out, and apparently he wrote an appreciation letter for her perfect body and also how she was too good for anyone. This ends up touching her heart, so she gets back into the house, and what initially was a failed plan finally becomes a successful one. That same night, Oliver finds out that Graham, the ninja neighbor, was his mom's first love. He realizes that his parents' intimacy problems are worse than he thought when he sees his dad going to sleep on the couch and his mom comparing herself to Graham's new girlfriend. One day after getting out of the cinema with his girlfriend, Oliver finds his mom and Graham getting into Graham's van. He then tries to distract Jordana by kissing her and they leave. During another uncomfortable family breakfast, Oliver's mom announces that she's planning to go on one of Graham's shows. After his mom leaves the room, Oliver tells his dad about what he saw the other day, but his dad only tries to avoid the conversation. He also tries to confront his mom about the situation, but she just brushes him off. At night, Oliver follows his mom to the show. Apparently, Graham is a guru and he preaches about light and how important it is. Oliver thinks that this is all some kind of mystic blabber, but his mom seems to believe it. At the end of the show, he hears Graham tell his mom how he broke up with his girlfriend, and he also invites her for next week's show and tells her to bring Lloyd. Oliver couldn't decide if he should tell Jordana about this problem, and he meets her and sees if she could relate to his issue. She tells him that her parents get along well, but her mom's got a tumor in her brain. Oliver realizes that Jordana has bigger problems, so he decides to keep his issue for himself. And weirdly enough, with his helper mentality, Oliver plans to kill Jordana's dog to help her adapt to loss. But before he executes this horrible plan, the dog gets hit by a car and dies. While they let its body drift away, burning from the shoreline of a lake, Jordana tells Oliver that her mom wants to meet him. He gets invited to an early Christmas party where he witnesses Jordana and her parents getting emotional. After walking him to the bus stop, Jordana asks Oliver to come to the hospital on Friday because her mom would be undergoing surgery. After noticing that Jordana had gotten sentimental, Oliver makes yet another unintentional cruel decision to cut her off completely in order to make her stronger. On Friday night, Oliver notices that his mother had left for the show without his father, so he keeps his father company. He ignores every call he gets from Jordana, and he considers two possibilities. In the first one, Jordana's mom survives the surgery, and Jordana becomes too relieved to be angry with him, and in the second one, Jordana's mom dies and she needs alone time to grieve. And either way, he will never be convicted of betrayal. The plan then is to fix his parents' marriage and get back to being a boyfriend. The first ridiculous try involved writing a letter pretending to be his dad and sending it to his mom. The letter consists of a message that says that his dad wants to perform a bunch of adult acts on her, and his mother clearly finds out that it was Oliver who wrote it, and she decides to talk to him about it. He denies writing it, but tells her that his father still finds her attractive and that he still wants to make love to her. After having to endure this unsettling experience, Oliver's mom leaves the house before he could deliver another letter to her. He finds her note in which she implies that she's going to the beach with Graham. After rushing to the beach where he finds Jordana having fun with another guy and his mom leaving with Graham, he chooses what matters more to him in the moment and decides to follow his mother. He sees her getting inside a van, and angry, Oliver breaks into Graham's house and he urinates in his bedroom and tries to set fire to his bed after splashing a drink on it. He then almost passes out from the smoke, and not being physically able to escape, Oliver covers himself with a blanket and lays on the ground. Graham, who thinks that this is some kind of protest from his ex-girlfriend, slowly approaches the blanket and he discovers that it was actually Oliver. He then takes him back to his house and runs away, and in the next morning, the family talks about what happened and his mother admits to giving Graham a hand job, and she also mentions that she talked about it with Lloyd. Oliver tells them that he's been having relationship problems, and later he receives an official breakup letter from Jordana. She tells him that she's found someone new, and she finally discloses that her mom is fine and apologizes for the awkwardness that it caused him. For the next couple of weeks, life becomes depressing waiting for Oliver. Sometimes in his dreams, he sees Jordana from afar. He dramatically runs toward her, but when she turns around, he realizes that it's not Jordana, but a girl that looks like her from behind. He moves out, and while his parents' relationship was getting better, he could not care less because he was now only worried about Jordana. While in class, Oliver writes down 3 reasons not to off himself. The first one is the mess and cleanup issue, and the second is making his parents look bad, and the third, which is the only number he circled, is that he will never see Jordana again. Chips finds his note and takes it for him, and the teacher notices the noise and orders Oliver to read it out loud for the class. After Oliver does so, his teacher talks to him in private to make sure that there won't actually be attempts where he tries to off himself. When they get out of class, Chips starts to make fun of him for what he wrote, and Oliver swings his leg to kick him, but Chips catches it. After seeing Jordana, he goes to her and apologizes, and he reasons with her by finally telling her about the problems he was facing at home. Lastly, he tells her to leave her new boyfriend and to leave with him, but Jordana refuses and Oliver runs away. Wallowing in sadness, Oliver goes to the seashore where they have spent much time together and shared many memories. From afar, he sees a girl with a red coat nearby, and just like in his dreams, he runs to her as soon as he notices. And when he calls her name, she turns around, and this time it was actually Jordana. She tells him that the new guy wasn't really her boyfriend, and Jordana silently takes steps into the sea, and Oliver follows her with his pants soaking wet, and they finally reunite as the sun rises and the movie ends. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and most of all, subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you on the next one. Bye!